Token Metrics is a cryptocurrency investment platform that helps users leverage machine learning to become better crypto investors. Our in-depth analysis helps eliminate the emotions of investing, find profitable investment opportunities, and filters out scams. Learn more at tokenmetrics.com.
We are live. Welcome to the Token Metrics Market Update. I'm your host, Bill Noble. If you need a roadmap in crypto and you need to make money or you need help with your positions, then subscribe to this channel. Turn on the alerts bell so you know when we're going live. And if you like the content, please give us a thumbs up. This show is brought to you by tokenmetrics.com, where you can get all kinds of information from AI and machine learning generated research to research by human analysts, deep dives, and hidden gems, right? Our analysts are currently out coming back from ETH Denver to give you the best hidden gems and the best new NFTs possible. Let's see who's on the stream. Taz, welcome, as always. Sheldon, Tommy D, Aiken, giving me some love for Notorious. Appreciate that over on my Twitter. All right, we have It's Crypto Time from Baltimore. We have Ireland, Mexico in the house. Welcome. Okay, we have the Caribbean, warm and sunny, no doubt. All right, let's see what else we got. We have Nigeria fans out there. We appreciate Belgium, Estonia, Point Pleasant. I'm assuming that's Jersey. Welcome. Okay. Sebastian coming in from a secret area, right? Andrew says, I sold the rally. Everyone's bearish, so it can pump, but not looking like it. Okay. Appreciate the color there. California, or somebody calls it California. Okay, no doubt after their interesting tax policies. Denver, Milwaukee, London, England, Germany, Panama, Dallas, welcome. All right, folks, let's kick in to your market update. Let's just get right to it. So we can look at part 2 of the new stuff that I'm coming out with to help you not only stay with the trend, but figure out where and when to buy and sell, right? Using some kind of definitive, measurable system. Now, I've gotten into something our quant department put me on to hidden pivots. So today will be both a market update with hopefully a lesson about how I generated these hidden pivots. All right, let's begin with crude oil. Now, I have a super complicated looking chart here, I know, but let's focus on that area between B and C. All right, now here's how hidden pivots work. They want you to find a sharp correction, right? So they'll call that sharp correction B and C. B is the start of the correction, C is the end of it. Then it wants you to go back and do a very subjective process where you try to find a spike, in this case, a spike low, or in a bear market, a spike high, where you suspect the trend may have started from, right? So they give you some literature, they give you some ways to study, but at the end of the day, you know, it's subjective. So after you get your correction, you go back and look where the trend started. Now, one of the things that you do when you look to see where the trend started is you look left. And when you look left, you want to see if your trend that you drew took out any big resistance points from the past or any big support points in a bear market. So in oil, it looks like the move from 35 to 85 took out a whole bunch of key support points shown on the left, right around $65, where you have the red squares and the black arrows. So that gives you some confidence that you've drawn something that's worth it. Now, the way these hidden pivots work, they use fib extension levels, which you've seen me use before. Now, after you draw the fib extension levels, right, it's a little outside the box as to how you draw them. But once they're drawn, you have a 25% retracement. And that's kind of your trigger point, right? That's where you kind of come in and start doing the trade. Now, as you can see with oil, it hit $78 was the first level. And on the weekly chart, it just went straight through that, like, you know, warm knife through butter, just went straight through. And it went to the next level. And what's the next level is 90. Now, it hung around 90 for 3 weeks. And guess what it did recently? It went from 90 to 98. Now, what does that tell you? Well, first of all, everyone is trying to do, well, you know, the war trade, the inflation fear trade is over. You can just buy the dip now. It's over. Everything was up big this morning. All right. And I don't think that's accurate. And here's why. First of all, oil traders are going to know, because Russia is a huge oil producer. They're going to know what's going on the ground before any of us do. We talked about this before. Oil is going to be a huge indicator for both equities and crypto. So this hidden pivot system, okay, assuming my work here is accurate, the next level in crude is 114. Now, how does oil get to 114? Well, there has to be a problem over in Russia. Well, what kind of problem over on the Russia-Ukraine border? You know, short of a massive invasion, how would it get to 114? Well, here's some stories I saw watching both the New York Times and the BBC News Channel. Okay, the Russians evacuated women and children and gave them Russian passports to go to a city near Moscow. So they took people out of this area that they recently recognized, took the women and children out, and the men were told to stay behind to fight. Who are they fighting? Well, they're fighting what I would call irregular elements of the Ukrainian army. Okay, the Ukrainians call them volunteers. So they look like soldiers. They've got nice gear and weapons, but they're not officially a part of the Ukrainian army. So if Russian citizens, volunteers, start shooting at Ukrainian volunteers or vice versa, because, you know, the Ukrainians might be a little bit upset about this, you have military elements on the ground in these places that are not controlled by governments. So if they just decide to shoot at each other, they can do that. Now, the Russian army is there, and that might deter them from doing so. I mean, who believes that at this point? People are angry. They have guns, right? And they're probably going to go at it. That's why oil continues to stay up. So if oil stays up and there are elements, you know, in the geopolitical situation, okay, that are not good for risk assets, then we need to pay attention and find levels in crypto and stocks where we can make decisions. And that's what this hidden pivot method, along with the moving average stuff I introduced yesterday, can help you. All right. So the next thing I want to look at is S&P. Now, S&P was relatively easy to find that corrective phase, right? Because, you know, S&P went all the way down to 4,200 and then it went up like 10%, right? There's this huge correction and it was relatively easy to draw where the trend started from, because as you look left, you can see that original down move in S&P took out a whole bunch of support points, a whole bunch. So we have some confidence that the math is good. So let's take a look at 44.55. Okay, that's the trigger for the down trade in S&P. So there was quite a dance around that level. It finally broke through. It came back above it and failed, right? It came right to 44.55 after breaking the level, stopped and turned around and went lower to the next level from the pivot system, which was 43.23. Now, when I made this chart this morning, S&P futures were right around that level. So it's very simple. If S&P is above 43.23, then the market should be stable and could be okay. Okay, if it gets above 44.55, then wow, that's terrific. But if not, the downside risk is roughly around 4,000. So, you're talking about like an 8 or 9% decline in stocks. Now, for crypto, that's nothing. But for stocks, to make a big new low for this move would probably freak people out. And if you just think about it, right? We're coming to the end of February. March 10th is the inflation number. March 16th is the Fed. And this geopolitical situation is not looking good. And frankly, the equities bubble is more absurd than anything going on in crypto. Yeah, sure, they could take it out on crypto and wreck it, but the valuation bubble in equities is unbelievable. Now let's look at QQQ. That's Web 2, NASDAQ 100. QQQ went through its key point at 352, did a little bit of a dance just below it, and then it's back down at 334. So 334 and QQQ is something you want to keep on your TradingView quote board. QQQ breaks down along with S&P futures. You got a problem in risk assets with oil up. Okay, now what you've all been waiting for, crypto, right? Okay, so the good news is this hidden pivot method is cool. All right, the bad news is, it can be a little difficult to figure out where trends started from. Good news, though. It's easy to find the correction, right? Bitcoin went all the way down to 32. That's your B. And then it spiked all the way up to like 46K. That's your C. That was your correction. So then you go back and you try to draw some levels where the trend started from. And there are lots of choices. And the theory gives me some guidance. But really, at the end of the day, I'm going to look at two things. One, did the downtrend, when I look left, take out a bunch of prior support points? So there was a bunch of prior support at 40. The down move took that out. And there were also some support points around 36, and the down move took those out. So, that's reason to believe that, this is a real deal down move that could extend itself. Now, how will you know it's going to extend itself? Well, you look over and you see that 39,300 is an important pivot point. That's the trigger for another down move in Bitcoin. Now, if you also look down below, you'll see that oscillator, that histogram, and it's tough to see, but you'll notice that it's basically at zero. And frequently, according to this method, when that oscillator gets near zero, that's where you want to be looking to take a trade, sometimes in the direction of the trend. So you get a rally to resistance. That's 39,300. That alligator moving average system is just starting to roll over and spread out. So it seems reasonable that if Bitcoin cannot get above 39,300, the next move might be to 33K. And we talked about this, a possibility of a new low, the possibility of, an attack to 34K, kind of like one last big nuke puke, right? Because I can't believe anybody's not going to want to be hedged going into all these inflation numbers, Fed, etc. So if you're like, well, gee, I missed everything, it's too late to get out or it's too late to hedge, this work shows that the signal just sort of ticked off. That, in other words, it's just been registered that, hey, now might be a good time to sell a rally to protect yourself. Now, of course, it's a pivot. That means if it's back above 39,300 and those moving averages don't, continue to move lower, that, Bitcoin might be safe. Okay, let's take a look at Ethereum. So, you had that move from, 2,200 to 3,200. That's obviously your correction. You draw, and say, all right, what was my down move? You look left and you look at all the different points, like, 3,300, 2,800, and even something around like, say, 2,350. ETH took all of those old support points looking left. So you can have some confidence that this is drawn correctly. So what level does it give you? Well, it looks like it gives you 2,700 as an important pivot. And as is shown in that little red shaded area on the right-hand side, those moving averages are starting to roll over. It's the Williams Alligator indicator on TradingView. So if ETH fails at 2,700 and doesn't look good, then, 2,125 is possible. So if you got NFTs, right? If you've got all these things that you got to, hedge the Ethereum risk, 2,700 allows you to not investment advice, but possibly do a short trade, put the stop just above 2,700, right? Or put the stop above, 2,800 or whatever your risk tolerance is. And you can be hedged. Or if you just got to get out and you got to say, I got to reduce risk, there's a level that you can watch when this video's not on. Okay. Or if you're watching the video later, 2,700 seems like a key level. Now let's look at Avalanche. Okay. Avalanche a little bit harder, right, in some ways. So obviously the correction was that huge move from 50 to 100. So that part's easy. What's not easy is to figure out where the downtrend from Avalanche would start based on the theory. So I made my best estimate, right? And I see that 82. So between 80 and 82, I'm noticing is where the resistance is for Avalanche. So we talked about yesterday about maybe getting a bounce. So the bounce turned out to be a lot bigger than we thought, or that I would have thought yesterday. What else is new when you have highly volatile markets? What's 10% between friends, right? Crazy. But if you look at that Williams oscillator, that little histogram down below where that little black arrow is, okay, a lot of times when that little indicator hits zero, sometimes it'll hit it as the market's moving up, which can be an indicator that it's time to take a trade in the direction of the trend. So I don't know that I'm necessarily advocating getting short Avalanche, but Avalanche is a great indicator for altcoins in general. So later on today, I'll try to do as much of this as I can. It's a little bit slower to do it on the fly, right? But of course, I'll try for you. But one of the best ways to say, all right, what about my altcoin, is to maybe not necessarily to look at Ethereum, but look at Avalanche, because Avalanche is the best of the bunch. And if Avalanche starts turning lower, it can probably head for 65, which again is not unreasonable because that's where it was, 2 weeks ago, right? Now, obviously, that's a lot of downside, and that's going to accompany higher oil and lower stocks. So we're fitting this together, right? Oil looks like it wants to keep going. Stocks are just breaking down, and crypto is rallying back towards resistance. So I'm giving you something here that will allow you to follow maybe the overall downtrend in crypto while also getting trade location. So I'm not selling the low and telling you at 82, it's going up forever, right? Now, if it's above 82, that's awesome, right? That's great. We'd all love that. I work at a crypto company, all right? And so would you, because you're probably long crypto. But if it's not below 82, then you need to act. And this is showing that it's not too late to act. As a matter of fact, this could be just the starting point of action. Okay, let's look at Solana, because I know people are messed up in Solana. Okay, this is a lot more difficult. A lot more difficult. Okay, it's tough to figure out where the correction is in Solana because it's just gone straight down. Okay, I opted for the move between 120 and 150. All right, I may have to redo this later, but one way I judged, in other words, you're like, gee, Bill, how do you know what you drew is meaningful? Well, look at the trigger point. The trigger point on this structure was 131. And the day, it's marked with the little arrow by the C. The day that Solana went through 131, it just crashed. So that would lead me to believe that maybe this structure is worth looking at. Now, that was a clean signal, and every signal is not always clean. So Solana is now, kind of range trading around 100. So rather than rally the way Avalanche did, Solana just sort of sat there. And as you can see in that red shaded area, that moving average system continues to turn, kind of like that downtrend might resume. So Solana above 102, good. Solana failing the way it's failing today, ugh. You have to ask yourself in Solana, if it's above 102, awesome. But if it's not above 100, it could go to 47. Now, no one wants that. No one wants to be a late stage bear, but you got to trade off that 102 level. Now, let's look at total 3. So if you've been reading our written reports, I write a lot about total 3 on TradingView. What's that? Well, total 3 is total altcoin market cap. It's total market cap without Bitcoin and Ethereum. Now, this measure has been doing this really tough dance around the 700 billion level. That's the neckline of a Head and Shoulders top. It also happens to be the location of a very interesting hidden pivot level, right around 694 billion. So this morning when I drew this, altcoin market cap was roughly 668 billion. Now, if altcoin market cap cannot recover, so that's got to mean, Solana, Avalanche, Polkadot, Cardano, Decentraland, Sandbox. If these things cannot rally in concert, then there's risk of altcoin market cap moving to like 567 billion. So you're talking about losing, $125 billion from altcoin market cap. Okay, that's a lot. And the eventual downside target of the Head and Shoulders top and of the hidden pivot method is somewhat unspeakable. The point from this chart is, since you're in the neighborhood of 694, 700 billion, that this is the time where you want to be making decisions. Like, do I want to stay or do I want to go? Do I want to go to stable coins in case it goes lower? I mean, you can always buy the market back if there's a big reversal, right? If crypto becomes the safe haven and decouples from equities, that rally could be so big that, you could jump on that. But do you want to be selling crypto, okay, where you should be buying it, say around 33K Bitcoin? That may be where the next big bounce comes from, right? So if you're going to reduce risk, now would be the time to do it. And that is the market update. Let's see what we got in the chat. Let's see if anyone understood that or if I just blew people's brains out. All right, so we have our friends from Mississippi. We have Brooklyn. Welcome. Okay. Bill, Bitcoin is down at 37K. So let's, right? In other words, I had 39K as a level. I had 2,700 in ETH. And let's pull the chart up and check out what's going on live. Because that's been another thing that we've been doing. I've got to write down some of the coin requests. Don't worry, we're going to get to it. Okay. All right, let's just take a look at the market. this seems to be another feature of what we do here because the market is so volatile. Okay, so let's sort of zoom in on ETH. All right. So this is the moving average system that I've been pointing out. Yesterday, I talked about it on an 8-hour chart. Today, we're looking at it on a daily. Okay. Now, here was this resistance level around 2,700. And as you can see, ETH went way up. And then there is kind of the rejection. Okay. Let's take a look and see what we got in Bitcoin. Okay. Very similar, right? Here was 39,300. It's tried to get above that twice. Okay. And again, you had this Williams oscillator. Let me see if I can blow that up. It's kind of really tough to see, but right there was the signal where you should be looking for a short, potentially, right? Looking to trade with the trend for a final move lower. And that level was right there, right again at 39K. Okay. And there's the moving average system kind of like widening itself out. So, who's going to stick around for like shooting between, angry guys with guns on both sides? Nobody. Okay, let's just take a look at Avalanche to see what's going on over there. Okay, so here's Avalanche getting rejected at 82. And the thing that bugs me about Avalanche is that moving average system just starting to roll over, right? As this, little like oscillator signal just sort of getting close to zero. Okay, I believe I did Decentraland and Mana, all right, during a prior webinar. Again, the Williams oscillator gets to zero. Decentraland fails at its support point. I didn't label the A, the B, and the C yet, but I can do that now because we're not in a hurry, right? There's the B. There's the C, right? And in crypto, that part's easy, right? That's this monster correction. And Decentraland is failing at the trigger point at 270. So the hidden pivot, right? That's the title of the stream. The hidden pivot is at 270, right? In other words, and this is always true, right? The best support and resistance levels are stuff you can't see. So if Decentraland is below 270, look at the moving average system, right? So I'm trying to give you levels where, if it rallies, you can sell, or if it dips, you can buy. And then I'm also trying to help you follow the trend at the same time. So you don't have to freak out right this second. But if Decentraland cannot get above 270, you can think it's going to go to 180. Now, if it's above 270, it's okay, right? So let's go back to Metaverse, and let's see what I did in Sandbox. So Sandbox is a little bit difficult. Sandbox actually looks worse than Decentraland, I think, because the short signal was all the way back above $4. So in Sandbox, it may be true that, land in Sandbox may be better than the token in Sandbox. Hopefully that's not true. I mean, that would be a huge bummer, but, obviously Sandbox broke through its big level at 343, and the next one's at 256. Okay, I also did RMRK because I know that, fundamentally, we've said some good things about RMRK. So let's just take a look at what's been happening here. Okay. So this oscillator dipped below zero right there. So in this neighborhood is where you would have been saying, all right, maybe this trend might resume and there could be a new low. And then what happens? The moving average system tips over, and then RMRK goes through another big level. Now, notice up here, how do we know that what we drew in RMRK is right? Because when it broke through its trigger level, it broke it, okay? It went down, and then it came back at the black arrow. See, it broke, returned, okay? And then boom. So, I do think that while this macro uncertainty is out there, in other words, while oil is on its way to 114 potentially, you need to be careful in the most speculative altcoins. Okay, so that's the market update inside the market update. Okay, let's see what we got going on here. We have Sweden in the house. Okay, any thoughts on Cardano? There's a lot of development happening there. I'd be happy to take a look at it and do my best. Okay, someone's asking for Osmosis and Juno. All right. All right, let's see what we got here. Let's try to go through this one step at a time. So the good news is, sort of, that it does actually take a little bit longer to draw the hidden pivot levels. Okay, so it's not like, normally I can do this like speed TA, and that can be a little bit more difficult. So let's take a shot at looking at Cardano. So Cardano's been in a long down trade. This spike here looks like a big corrective spike. So let's try drawing the fib numbers. Yes.
You're not sharing the screen.
I'm not sharing the screen. All right. All right. And yes, I have a request for Jasmine. I will take a look at that. That will be the first coin that I do. I know you were asking for that yesterday. So let's take a look at the screen. Okay, here's Cardano. All right. So when I draw the hidden pivots in Cardano, right, that's my B. That's my C. And then I look to the left, right, and my A was up here. So the first thing I'm going to look is I'm going to look left. And I'm going to say from A to B, did I take out any important points? And it looks like we took out some points here. And we definitely took out some points like this big low there. So that leads me to believe that whatever I'm looking at in Cardano is useful. Now let's see if we can get any validation, right? Let's just zoom in close. So here was the trigger point in Cardano there, right? So Cardano broke the point on this candle and went straight down. Then Cardano comes back up to it there and fails. Now Cardano is doing a miniature version of that, okay? It breaks this level, okay? And then it finds resistance right here at 97 cents. One thing you want to notice in Cardano is that these moving averages are actually starting to spread out. And, the point where you wanted to maybe be selling Cardano based on this oscillator here was probably somewhere in there. So things not looking too good for Cardano if it can't get itself back above 97 cents. So 97 cents was a pivot that you might not have drawn otherwise. That's why they call it the hidden pivots. So if you're a Cardano fan, you just want to see it get back above 97 cents. It's as simple as that. And if it doesn't, then you got risk in Cardano. Well, let's just say the risk is unspeakable. Okay. But you want to focus on 97 cents. All right, now let's see if we can get, let's see if I can find this Jasmine coin. All right. There it is. Okay. So, you know, this has obviously been a steady downtrend. All right. Now let's see if I can use the hidden pivot method to find where a low might come in. Because that's the other thing about hidden pivots that's really interesting is you can use it to try to find lows. Okay, so this is your B and C here. So that's the big correction. In crypto, it's always easy to find the correction. It's not always easy to find out where the trend started from. Okay, let's go to an 8-hour chart on this. All right, stay with me, people. I'm working. Okay, I'm going to go back to the daily chart. Okay, so the downside target for this, based on this work, not that great. So let's switch up what we're doing because it doesn't feel like a realistic downside target. So this is what it's like, you know, to do TA live. To the extent that you find it entertaining, okay, hopefully you do, to watch me figure stuff out. This is me figuring it out. Okay, so let's try this. Let's assume this is our B and our C here. Let's assume this is where the trend started from. Nope, doesn't work. Okay, I'm going to try one more thing. One more time. All right. Now here's the conclusion I can come to in this. So one of the things that we've witnessed here is something that's gone way past its perceived downside target at 0.026. Right? It's overshot what you would think might be a downside target. All right. And I think this here is interesting. So what you're going to want to see is you're going to want to see some validation, right? That this coin can come back above, say, wait, this is 0.0269. Sorry. Right. So the time to do something good is now. This to me feels like bears giving up. I'm sorry, bulls giving up. So it looks like a monster give up trade. So if bulls can hold it together, right, this might actually be able to come back and rally a penny. But it's very clear that, you know, bulls have given up, and this may be way overextended, okay, versus its moving average system. In other words, one of the ways you look for something being totally overextended is when you get this sort of angular gap between the red lines and the blue lines. Those are sort of like daily moving averages, and price. So when price goes way outside the bounds, you want to start looking for a reversal. Okay. So if there's going to be a reversal in this coin, you should see it soon. Okay. And that is the Jasmine market update. Let's take a look at Woo. Someone's asking for that. Okay, let's take a look at this on a daily chart. All right. So one thing I will say about this is, this is pretty overextended. It is overextended. But is it overextended and is it on a hidden pivot point? That's the question. So let's see what we can get. All right. So in Woo, I would say, based on how this has been trading, this may not be the perfect structure, but I would be watching for support around 31.316. In other words, if Woo goes down, that should be support. That's how I would trade Woo. Now let's see if there's another way to do it. Okay, so the same method gives you almost the same target, right? 0.136. I'm sorry, 0.316. So that's going to be a big level in Woo. Even if the market goes down, I have seen things like Luna actually hold these levels and come back. Okay, let's take a look at Sol. Okay, so this is NFTs in gaming. This is a lot harder to figure out, perhaps, where the downtrend started from. Okay, there you go. So if this is our correction, I'm going to label this chart for you. So there's our B and there's our C, right? This is Sol on a daily chart. So what am I trying to do? I'm trying to keep you trading with the trend, but I don't want you selling support and buying resistance. So in Sol, $1.22 and change is a big support point. And that's where Sol bounced from. So there's that hidden pivot zone. And, the trade here around this area was very difficult. So I may have to relook at this. This requires a lot more studying. I'm doing it on the fly for you. But I can tell you this in Sol, if Sol doesn't hold $1.22, then you need to reevaluate what you're doing, right? Because if it goes below that point, right, this is what you don't want to see. If it goes below this point, comes back and fails, then it could start to turn down again, right? So if you're in the Sol, you want to know what's going on around $1.22. Okay, Elrond. And as we're on the show, throughout the coming weeks, we'll find out, did the hidden pivots work? Were they helpful? We'll find out. I mean, so far it's working okay in Bitcoin and Ethereum. Okay, so wow, Elrond is such a wild beast, right? On a daily chart. God. All right, so okay, so here was the trigger point in Elrond. And of course, everyone got stopped out on this huge spike up. Right? The moving averages are turning, and Elrond is kind of like, Elrond would be good above 190. But as you can see, absent that huge wick up, there were several days where Elrond tried to get back above 190. Like this went on for like 4 or 5 days up here. This is a big battle. Okay, and the bears wound up winning. Now this moving average system is starting to turn around. Now, if Elrond can just hang out, that's fine, right? But if Elrond doesn't hang out, you got to ask yourself, can I tolerate 112? Can I tolerate that? And if the answer is no, then you need to adjust your position. Okay, so you can just see me playing around because the ultimate game is where was the high up here? They give you some guidance, but I would stick with this idea that 190 was the important pivot and that this Elrond trade, even though you like it, right? If you have to reduce risk, then reduce risk because if it's at 112, I don't want to see you puking it at 112. 112 is a buy, right? It's a buy at 112. Right? So you have to ask yourself, what am I going to do at 150, 160? All right. Let's go to Cube. Big metaverse play. A couple of the fundamental houses like Cube. And I know this is going to be really difficult. Because of how these metaverse coins can correct. Okay, so let's try this. Right here, it looks like there was a big green candle where Q tried to go up but didn't make it. So a lot of times that's what you're looking for. Now, the big trigger point based on this in Cube, lo and behold, it's right where we are right now at 509. So this is pretty simple, right? Because 509 is this Fibonacci trigger point. So if Cube's above 509, it's fine. But if it's not, right, you could be looking at, a much sharper move down. Right? Now, if I move this high down to here, Cube is already below the trigger point at 646, and the support point where you'd be looking to buy it is probably 422. If I was looking to buy Cube, I'd be looking to buy it at 422. That's at least my official first read, because again, you don't want to be fading the moving average system when it's showing that the trend is just starting and this thing looks like it's right, because, when this thing gets to zero, that oscillator, right, that's an indication that you should probably try to get short for trend resumption. And as it turns out, that's working. So, that's the best I can do. Obviously, when I go back and I study these charts, I'll keep studying, I'll do more work, right? So you get a better read than just the speed TA. Okay, Liz is asking for Gala. So where is the hidden pivot in Gala? Okay, so unbelievable amount of stuff I got to clear off here. All right, so we know where our big correction in Gala was, right? It was here. This is where the corrective activity started from, right there. Now, the question is, what do we want to draw for the top of the trend? Okay, so in Gala, there was a huge dance around the trigger level. All right. So the trigger level was 29 cents. Now, the thing that gives me pause here is that this oscillator was telling you right here. Okay. And it's telling you again here that as this thing gets near zero, right, that's a level where you want to consider maybe looking for a short or a hedge to protect against a new low, right? That was the other time it was near zero. Now, I know a lot of this stuff is not perfect, but I know that you do not want to see Gala below 19 cents. You can try to buy Gala at 19 cents, just below 19 cents. Okay, so that's the critical support, right? Because here's what's happening in Gala. That moving average system is starting to roll over the same way it did up here. So if Gala holds 19 cents, it's okay. I guess the way with these metaverse coins is, particularly with this one, that, you know, if it's trading at 22 cents and it was down at 19 cents before, maybe you just let it go down there and see if it bounces. I can tell you right now, if Gala goes down to that point, goes through it, you know, if you see this, right? Okay, you see it break and then come back and do that bump and run off the hidden pivot, then you know it's broken, right? So I think a lot of people who like Gala are going to hold on. And, you know, why not? There's support just below you. Now, personally, I'd be reducing risk. I'd look at buying it back at 19 cents. And if that didn't work, I would puke the whole position. Because what's going to happen with metaverse coins, if you've got the inflation number, the Fed in like 3 weeks, along with the geopolitical situation. So on one hand, I'd love it if metaverse held 19 cents for Gala. That's support. You buy support. But if you can't buy support, if support fails, then you know once this video's over that that's where you got to get out. Okay, Dana Schwartz says, realistically, when would a real significant pump happen? Okay, Daniel asking for Goldfinch. We actually covered that today on our fundamental report for our premium customer webinar. Okay. All right, someone's asking for KDA. Okay, so let's take a look at KDA and see if we can figure out what the deal is. Okay, so with KDA, you know, you get these really violent corrections. Whoops. So this is your BC area, right? These like huge corrections. Okay, I'm still drawing. Okay, so let's take a different approach to KDA because it's so volatile. I mean, it is so volatile. So I'm going to assume this is the A. This is the B. And that's the C. Okay, so it's a little bit of a different tact. And as I look left, right, if I look left, I was talking about before, my A wave did take out some critical points. So let's take a look at what levels seem to matter in KDA. Okay, it looks like KDA loves to, find the trigger points. Okay. Go below the trigger point, decline, come back to it. Like, check out how KDA, it started here, went down to one support point, came back up to the trigger point. Now it's done this thing I was just talking about earlier, right? It breaks down, it comes back. Naturally, it overshoots. And the question is it going to turn around and do that? Well, we don't know that yet, but what we do know is that the important pivot for KDA, oh, God, that did not just happen. Okay, the important level for KDA, let me label this chart. The important level for KDA is at $6.80. All right, so if KDA holds 680, it might be okay. If KDA doesn't hold 680, this moving average system, it's not exactly totally rolling over, right? It's kind of flat, but, it's actually untwining itself. See, in here, there's nothing to do because, it's all sort of knotted up. There's nothing to do in here. But when it starts to like unfold itself, it's below a hidden pivot. And oh, look, remember I told you about this oscillator? Okay, that oscillator is literally just dipping below zero. That's sort of indicating that, that may be the level to get short at. It was the same here. So if you're a big KDA fan, and I understand why, it's a good project. But the thing is, you don't want to be selling the good project at support at $3.40. I don't want you to sell it down there. I want you to buy it down there. Not investment advice. Okay. So if KDA is not recovering above $6.80, then you have downside risk. Now, this, like Gantt charts or Elliott wave or anything else, things may have to get redrawn if it gets blown up. But with the way oil and stocks, okay, then let's just check in on the market, right? So Ethereum's unchanged and Bitcoin is now down, right? So when it comes to KDA, if you have to take a loss or you have to reduce risk to buy it back later, that would seem to be the way to go. Okay, Taz is looking for near. So let's take a dive into near. I can tell you right now that this is going to be harder. So let me reshare the screen. Whoops. Got to get a request for the guy that's first on the stream every day. I so appreciate him and all the people who watch the show, and feel free to spread it around that, some of these TA indicators came straight from our quant department, right? So Token Metrics is not just a YouTube channel, but it's also a company. Okay. Okay, so this reading on near is a little bit outside the box. Okay, but let's talk about it. You had the break of the trigger point here. So let's label this near. Let's label this A, B, and C. Because remember, this whole calculation starts from trying to find a big correction. You find that bit, which is easy in crypto these days, right? That's where the calculation starts from. Then the question is, which one of these highs should I use? I'm going to use this one because it was green. Okay, now let's take a look at what near is telling us. So near broke down right there, right at 12 or 1179. That was the trigger. So let's label that the trigger at 1179. And what happens? Lo and behold, near comes back and retests the level prior to the Russia thing hitting the fan. Then it goes down below the next level and tries to come back through it today. Okay, that level looks like 961. So as painful as it is, right, because I know we like near as a project, what I don't want to happen is I don't want you to get stubborn at 961 and wind up selling it at 582, because that's the level where you should probably be loading the boat. Okay, so be very mindful is what I would say, especially since this moving average system, right, is starting to widen out again. Starting to widen out. Now, there is a case in near. There is a case to be balanced, right? So near, honestly, you know, is far away from its red and blue lines. So I would say if near came back above 961, that it might actually be really bullish, right? Because it's so kind of stretched out. All right. But if you look at what's been happening today at the other pivot levels, Avalanche 82, ETH 2700, right? So just because it's a good project doesn't mean it can't get hammered. So if it can't get above 961 and you're watching this video later, I know Taz watches every day, so I'll keep them posted on near, as will anybody who has it, right? I'll try to keep you posted on all the coins you care about. But what I don't want to happen is I don't want you to, with, war, inflation, and the Fed, I don't want you to be selling projects where you should be buying. That's all I'm saying. So watch what happens at 961. Okay, folks, that's it for today. I got to say goodbye. I know there is a lot of stuff people want me to look at. I will try to get all the lists of all these coins. Okay. All right. XRP, I actually covered in our customer webinar. I think it's in a range between 63 cents and 63 and 82 cents. So depending on where it breaks out there, that's how I would move XRP. But I do have to go. Zane, Taz, right? I know we have a lot of requests here, right? I'm going to look at Polkadot. I'm going to try to come up with a slide deck that has all these hidden pivots in it, because I want you to be able to do two things. I want you to trade with the trend, and I want to give you levels that everyone else can't see, right? Which is why I want you to subscribe to the channel, right? I want to give you the trend, support, and resistance so you can manage P&L and get involved, particularly on down moves, right? Where everyone's given up, that's where I want you guys to be buying. So that's it for today. I'm your host, Bill Noble, right? I will see you tomorrow.